My first Sunday here, as soon as I walked in, I was like, okay, this feels like a place that could be home.
And as we walked out the front door, he said, "What do you think?" And I just went, "Yep, I'm in."
All my roommates and I cried because we're like, we found our church on the first Sunday that we tried. I haven't stopped going since.
Vintage's message coming in was, to me, it was powerful because it wasn't a message that made me feel like I wasn't Christian enough to be here. I felt very welcome, and I think a lot of people feel that coming in no matter where they are in their faith.
That's the magic source of Vintage. They care so much about the people and their journey, and it's no longer stuffy, it's refreshing. It's no longer dark, it's light. That's the good news about the church. So here's the church in 1925. What's the first memory that you have of coming to the church, the old church?
Well, I just started a job in early 1960 as a nurse at Santa Monica Hospital, and I asked one of the nurses, did she know of a church nearby? And she said, "I hear there's a wonderful church at 10th in California." Anyway, I attended, I loved it. There was so many wonderful things going on, and I've never left. There was no reason to ever leave. And that was the beginning.
61 glorious years.
Yeah.
My name is Barry Smith, and I've been here since 1971. You know, the pews have gone. The color scheme is different. We were pink and blue. You have to remember back in 68, early 70s, everybody wore suits, the women wore dresses, there was a lot of hats, a lot of wigs, just a lot of stuff that really didn't make any difference. The most important thing that's changed is the spirit. Now the church is full, they're listening, they're taking notes during the sermon, they're having a good time, and they're growing visibly every Sunday. And so if you judge them not by what they wear and not how they look, but what's going on inside them, you're seeing transformation. And change is difficult, but you're seeing it happen all the time.
Wow,
Are they actual glass? I thought they were plastic. My name is Gare.
I'm Lizzie.
And we planted Vintage Church together way back in 2011.
He said, well, before I start looking into where God might have us, is there anywhere you definitely will rule out? And I said, there's only one place I will not go, and that is Los Angeles. And here we are.
In the midst of the hardship, there was clear evidence that God was with us. But it was just a lot of hard work, you know, and a big change from comfortable suburbia in the South to 3 kids shoehorned into 1 bedroom. And LA, I came to visit, and LA broke my heart.
I could have missed the greatest adventure of my life if God had answered my human desires of a safe, comfortable, suburban life for the kids. Because part of my fear of coming out of suburbia into a city was that my kids would never know Jesus personally. They'd never know his adventure and grace and love and sense of joy and fun that you can have by knowing Jesus and how that makes you complete as a person. And that was my tearful, on my knees moment with God before we came, where it's like, I need you to come through for my kids. I will follow you, but you have to take care of them. And he did. We've prayed as a family for some pretty significant things, and they've watched God answer it. And so they can say, I've seen God at work in my family life, and I watched a church be built in a way that my parents couldn't have done alone.
Vintage represents the most joyful time in my life.
This church has been like deeply a part of my formation in becoming more like Jesus and being transformed.
He always said, I have a crush on Vintage. So I was like, well, we better go there.
It was the best thing that actually happened to me anyway, up until that point. And it was a church that preached the full gospel. I said, there's something for everybody, socially and spiritually. There's something for everybody to be involved with this church.
And people tolerate us in spite of our great age. So it's just been a good overall experience.
Gear asked everybody to close their eyes, and he said, if you are ready to take that next step towards Jesus, raise your hand. And I raised my hand. And, so afterwards, I get emotional, but I shared that with her, and so that's I feel so fortunate right now to have found this community where it is about and really getting to know Jesus and to live in the image of God.
I feel like there has been a renewed sense of, I don't know, I mean, it's the Holy Spirit for sure, but it's this sense of like, there's something going on and people are hungry for what they're coming here and they're finding something that they're hungry for and they're finding something that they need and something that they feel missing in their lives.
When we can gather with other people during the week, it makes the load of whatever we're going through easier to get by and to get through it and to be around others who kind of get you.
Getting swept up in anything with Jesus makes it all worthwhile.
We all have in common that there is that bit of brokenness that we do have. So the solution that I've found is through faith. It is the grace that I was given and the faith that I've been able to build in my relationship with Christ. And Vintage is, it's like the house where all that's happened, all that's taken place.
It reminds me of a quote that Winston Churchill said, that we shape our buildings and then they shape us. 100 years of this church shaping people in Los Angeles has had an effect. People walk into Vintage Church and they're renewed. There is something beautiful about this campus and the legacy that it represents and the legacies that it will represent for years to come. And I deeply believe that if we can shape individuals here at Vintage Church in a way that looks more like Jesus, we can shape Los Angeles.
This building has played an important role since it was built in 1950 of helping people discover Jesus for the first time. I look at the whole city, I think there's millions of people we have to invite to explore Jesus. And so we just have to expand capacity as much as we can, knowing there's a hunger to do that as well. Isn't it incredible to hear all the stories of what God's doing in our church? I'm so excited to see and hear the tangible fruit of the kingdom going on in our church. And so we're calling this time a time of renewal. God is renewing us for the sake of renewing our city. And every now and again, you get these moments where you go, we need to pause and actually see what God's doing and join with him. And we feel this is a particular season to join with God in expanding our capacity to expand what he's doing, that we can actually cater for more kids and youth, more ministry, bigger alpha courses, overflow spaces for Sunday. There's so much more that we want to do, and we've got the room for it, but we need to expand into it. And so we're about to embark on a project to make the most of the buildings that we have to expand capacity for what God's doing. We're going to begin with the sanctuary here. We're going to begin by upgrading it and renovating it and also putting in climate control, better sound and visual equipment. We're then gonna double ministry space just in the courtyard, just in the hall, in the building right next door. We wanna get the offices out so we can prioritize mission, prioritize ministry for Alpha, for Bible study, for college ministry, for missions, for kids and youth. We wanna double our ministry space right next door. And that means we have to relocate our offices, but we're gonna do that and put the offices in the building across the alley, create a ministry center there just to move offices and actually create more space for classrooms, for trainings, for midweek events. So God's on the move. It's gonna cost about $7.5 million to do all of this, but we're so excited about joining God in this moment. And we want to invite you into this journey with us, together as a family, to look at how can we make this happen. Specifically, we're asking everyone to pray about what part they want to play in this financially. On March 26th, we're all gonna come and give a pledge. A financial pledge of playing our part in the story of this time of renewal. That pledge is pretty straightforward. We're gonna see, hey, each of us, what is our pledge over 24 months? So it's not like right now, but it's, God, over 24 months, what are you calling me to invest? That's kind of 3 calendar years if you want to spread it out that way. But on March 26th, we're all going to come and in worship, and as we celebrate what God's doing, we're also going to worship Him with this pledge and say, count me in. I want to play my part in what you're doing to renew this church, to renew our city. So join us. Join us in joining God to see our capacities expanded for all that He's doing to renew our city.